Hello and welcome to my video. Today I'm going to be talking about how to do prop building for your do-it-yourself costuming. Today we're going to be talking about materials that you can use. The materials I'm going to use, I'm going to pick items like Central, which is a plastic piece that you can actually mold in any shape that you want. You just use heat. You can use something as simple as a heat gun in order to heat up the material, and then you can bend it any way that you want. And even though that this is not very hot, you can see the material is still very pliable. Once you heat it up and hold it into shape, once it cools, it keeps that shape. Another piece of material that I'm going to use is some PVC pipe, and I have some different sizes here. And as you can see, there's several different kinds that you can use of different diameters. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a prop for a scope for a Star Wars blaster. So in the next segment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over how to set up to get ready to build your prop. You want to have a set plan in order to get where you want to go with your project. Trying to do it on a whim is not a good idea. A lot of times it does not turn out the way that you want. So in the next segment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over how I'm going to design this scope for the prop for my Star Wars blaster. So for this part of the planning, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to draw out what I want my scope to look like. And in here I've taken a picture of my blaster concept for my Star Wars costume. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw out overall what I want my scope to look like. And keep in mind, this doesn't have to look perfect. You don't have to be a very good artist for this. And as you can tell with my drawing skills here, I am really not very good with drawing with computers, but that's okay. So like I said, this is just to help guide you. And what this will also do is to help figure out the placement of everything of where you want for your props and your costume overall. So when I finish drawing this, I'm going to know about what I need to do in order to get the effect of what I would like. So for this, what I'm trying to do is I want the front part of my scope to be slightly bigger than the rear part, and this is just to keep in with the real life, what it would look like in real life. So now that I have this, I know exactly what I need to do and how it's going to look overall. And that's the most important part, because you don't want to go ahead and build it and then realize it really doesn't work. So now I can go ahead and kind of eyeball where I want the measurements to be. And now I can go ahead and get started on building my scope. So next segment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut my mount piece. I'm going to cut out my pipe to the lengths that I want them, and cut out any other pieces that I need in order to complete this build. So now that I know what I want my scope to look like, now I'm going to go over cutting the materials. Before I start cutting any of the materials, I want to make sure that I'm practicing good safety tips. So before I start cutting anything, I'm going to make sure that I wear my ear plugs. I'm going to also make sure that I'm wearing safety goggles so that way anything sharp does not get stuck into my eye. These are just general good safety tips. Wear gloves and make sure that you're paying attention to everything you're doing. Good safety goes a long way. Another reason why I'm using Centro is because not only is it pliable and it holds its form after you heat it and let it cool down, is it's also very easy to cut through. All it really takes is just an X-Acto blade after you've traced your pieces out, and you can just simply cut it out using an X-Acto knife. So now that I've gone ahead and cut my materials, now what I'm going to go over is I'm going to go over showing you everything that I have that's all set and ready to go. So I have all of my rings, and what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to use these for different sizes of my PVC, and what they'll do is they'll just fit in just like that. And I've cut a hole in these so that way I have my next piece that will go and fit inside this. So now what I can do is I can go ahead and start putting my pieces together. So now that I have everything cut, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start getting all of my pieces put together so that way I know exactly what I'm working with and what the overall look is going to be. So once I fit all of the pieces in together, I'm going to find out if there's anything that I need to change or anything that I need to reset. And I'm making sure that I do all this before I actually glue anything together and make anything finalized. Because the last thing that you want to do is actually get all your pieces together and glue it together and then realize that that you didn't have it placed in the right spot. And then you'll have to start the project all over again. Okay, so I have this all together for the most part. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my piece of wood that I cut for my mount, for my scope. And what I've done is I've put some screws into it. And I've also drilled some holes onto my PVC pipe. And as you've noticed, I have a bigger hole here and a smaller one, so that way I can just put the big part of the screw and then just slide it into place. And it will pretty much lock into place and I won't have to worry about it moving around. Alright, so now I have my scope put together. I've went ahead and measured everything to make sure that it's even from this point to here on both sides. And now I am ready to go ahead and attach this to my rifle. So I've gone ahead and made sure that everything fits. So when I cut all of the little slot out right here, as you can see, right here, this is going to fit this little notch sitting right here. And so now I have a scope for my blaster rifle. And at this point I can tweak it just a little bit as far as putting anything to make it look Star Warsy. I have to put some little gadgets on it just to make it look a little bit more sci-fi, but for the most part this is done. So to keep in line with the Star Wars universe, I tried to do something to try to make my costume or my prop look a little bit more sci-fi. So what I did was I took an old remote control right here and I simply just adhered it to the rest of the scope. So what I was trying to do, like I said, was give it a sci-fi look. It does still need a little bit of work, but overall it's ready to go. All I really need to do is just paint it and give it a little bit of a worn out effect in order to keep with the Star Wars universe. I hope this video was helpful for you and I hope it helps you with your costuming.